On June 12, 2026, three separate digital events converged to reveal a critical vulnerability in the foundation of the modern web. It began when the FBI completed a massive takedown of the Outsider enterprise. This was an AI-powered phishing syndicate that used large language models to instantly generate millions of unique, psychologically targeted messages that mimicked official corporate communication with absolute precision. Simultaneously, a separate breach targeted 7,000 Langflow servers. Hackers identified a single flaw in the AI development framework, granting them remote code execution across thousands of startup databases. These failures led to an intervention at the highest level of government. Federal agents oversaw a forced blackout of Anthropic's Claude 5 models after discovering they could autonomously generate polymorphic malware, essentially creating cyber weapons that were invisible to traditional security. Make no mistake, these are not isolated glitches.
They are proof that weaponized AI has outpaced our infrastructure, turning the internet's legacy architecture into its greatest liability. To understand why these systems fail, we have to look at the monolithic architecture that powers most of the internet, specifically through platforms like WordPress. In a monolith, everything is unified. The front-end interface, the back-end logic, and the central database all coexist on the same server environment, with no internal barrier separating them. AI-powered scanners now probe these environments relentlessly. They aren't looking for the front door. They are hunting for a single outdated third-party plugin, a microscopic vulnerability in the code added by an unvetted developer. Because there is no internal isolation, a breach of one cosmetic plugin grants the attacker lateral movement across the entire stack. Within milliseconds, they have full root access to your server logic and your user database. This centralization was at the heart of the Langflow and Claude 5 crises. When a single system is responsible for everything, a single point of failure can compromise millions of records. The old web was built for convenience and rapid sharing, but in an era of machine speed attacks, those same features make it impossible to defend. Survival now requires an architecture that shatters the monolith. We are seeing a move toward decoupled architecture, which focuses on physical and logical isolation. First, the front end is extracted. It is compiled into static assets and distributed globally across content delivery networks. This means there is no active server logic left on the website for a hacker to exploit. The database is then moved to a completely separate fortified cloud layer. It is protected by row-level security, ensuring that even if one user session is compromised, the rest of the data remains invisible to the attacker. This shift also deletes the most common point of entry, the static password. By replacing passwords with dynamic one-time codes, AI-driven brute force attacks become mathematically impossible. This strategy of total isolation is being adopted by the world's largest tech entities. During WWDC 2026, Apple introduced their AFM3 models, which take this philosophy to the extreme. Apple is bypassing the cloud entirely. By shrinking AI models to run 100% locally on your phone's silicon, they've removed the server-side target. The data never leaves the device, so there is no pathway for an external attacker to follow. The new paradigm of digital defense relies on removing the targets. By isolating the front end, locking the database, and running AI locally, developers are finally severing the pathways that AI attackers use to strike. The 2010s focused on unrestricted innovation and open cloud trust. That philosophy has reached its limits. Digital infrastructure is splintering into isolated, edge-computed vaults. This is a direct response to a world where cyber warfare is now automated. Adopting a decoupled, serverless architecture is now the primary mechanism for corporate survival. Any organization still relying on legacy, monolithic platforms is effectively gambling against a military-grade AI adversary that never sleeps.